Hello guys, today we're going to study 3.6 rational inequalities. Here we have an example we need to solve and graph the solution set x plus 1 over x plus 3 greater or equal than 2. Step 1, we're going to rewrite as one side is 0 and the other side is a single quotient. So here we have a 2 on the right hand side, so we're going to move this to another side. That will be x plus 1 over x plus 3. Then we're going to be subtract to both sides. That will be greater or equal than 0. And then we're going to turn this, the left side, into a single quotient. Okay? So we're going to find the least common denominator. In this case, the least common denominator is just going to be x plus 3. So this means we have to multiply. This is 2, right? Multiply this by x plus 3 over x plus 3. So that would be greater or equal to 0. So we're going to multiply this, or we can write this as 2 over 1. So now we have the common denominator. So we're going to have x plus 1. All right? Subtract. Be careful this, okay? Subtract 2 times. Okay? You have to think this will put a parenthesis here. That will be x plus 3. Okay, over x plus 3. Okay, so be careful, there's a parenthesis you have to put there. Then we'll do a distribution. Okay, we still got to write greater or equal than 0. So this is going to be x and then minus 2x. That will be negative x. Then we have a plus 1. This is minus 6. That will be minus 5. If you want to take your time to do it, that's fine too. Okay, so there's a whole thing over x plus 3. Greater or equal than 0. Alright, so that is our step 1. So we'll rewrite this as one side is 0 and another side is a single quotient. Okay, so then we're going to move on to step 2. So step 2, we have set the numerator and the denominator of f equal to 0. The real solution are the boundary points. Okay, so here we're going to do step 2. Numerator to 0, so we set this to 0. So we solve it. This is going to give us x equal to negative 5. And then we also set the denominator to 0. This is going to give us x equal to negative 3. Okay? So those points are my boundary points. So step 3, we have to locate the boundary points on the number line. So we have negative 5 and negative 3. Okay? So we're going to set this as a boundary points. So we're going to cut this interval to 3 pieces, just like a polynomial inequality. Okay? Step 4, hopefully you guys can remember now, is just test the points. So now we're going to pick a couple points. Let's use a different color. So let's pick this negative 6. So we're going to pick a points here, let's say negative 4. We're going to pick a points here, let's say this is 0. Okay? That's our testing points. So I'm going to plug this in. That will be negative 6. So we're going to plug this inside where? So we're going to plug inside here. Okay, so be careful on this. So we're going to plug inside this inequality. Okay, so then f of negative 6, if we plug it in, okay, so that will be, you can plug it in, okay, step by step in this case. But if you can just know they're greater or less than 0, that is our goal. So in this case, we're going to get negative 1/3, okay, which is less than 0. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, is it that's your solution? Since the question is, okay, write this down. Since the question was greater or equal than, okay, right here, greater or equal than. So my testing points give me less than 0, which means that is not your solution. Okay, so we're going to go to the next testing points. We're going to test the negative 4. Okay, you test this, you're going to end up with 1, which is greater than 0. Okay, then you match this, is we're looking for something greater. Okay, so that means this portion is your solution. Okay, this part, this interval, because they're matched everything. Okay, And then we're going to test the last interval, so that is 0. So we're plugging this in, so you're going to end up less than 0. Okay, so that is not your solution. So then finally, in step 5, let me write it down. Okay, if you look at this, okay, so we can write down from -5 to -3 is our solution, right? So we have learned the greater or equal, so we should use a bracket on both sides, right, from previous polynomial inequality. However, because our -3, okay, let's look at this. Let me highlight it. Okay, pink color. Because our -3 is come from the denominator, okay? If we plug in the -3 here, that means it'll give you a 0. Because we know the denominator cannot be 0. That means we must exclude -3, okay? So instead of using the brackets, we must use the parenthesis. So greater or equal, so we have to write this bracket, all right? Again, normally we're going to use both side bracket because -3 come from the denominator, so that's why we must exclude that. Okay, so that's the reason why we have to do this. All right, guys. So if I want to write this solution this way, so on your homework they often make you to write this way, okay? So that is your solution on the number line. Alright, guys? So example 5, we solve and graph the solution set 2x over x plus 1 greater or equal than 1. Okay, let's go ahead and do this a little bit faster. Okay, so we know we have to move everything to the left side. Okay, and then what we do is greater or equal than 0. And then we're going to find the common denominator. We're going to multiply by x plus 1 over x plus 1. Okay, because the common denominator. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 2x minus is 1 time x plus 1, okay, over there's the whole thing, that will be x plus 1 greater or equal than 0. Then I'm going to simplify this, that will be 2x minus 1x, that will be x left, and then it's -1 multiply positive 1, that will give you -1. There's the whole thing over x plus 1 greater or equal than 0. Once we have this, okay, so this basically is our step 1. And then we said step 2, we're going to set numerator equal to 0, okay, and we're going to set denominator to 0. Then we're going to solve each piece. So this is going to give me x equals 1. This is going to give me x equals -1. So write yourself a note, okay, we must exclude this, alright? Right, that means on -1, this side must use parentheses, okay? No matter what happens here, no matter what happens here, okay? So we must exclude this x equal to -1. Okay, let's move on. Once we have this, and step 3, we're going to put this on the number line. So that is my boundary points. We're going to have 1 right here. We're going to have -1 right here. So, and then we're going to pick a couple testing points. Let's put this -2. Let's use 0 here. Then maybe we'll use a 2 right here. So then we're going to test each point. We got to remember when we're testing these points, okay, we're going to bring it back here. Alright, here. So then we're going to test this. We're going to plug in -2. That will be negative for the numerator and the negative for the denominator, right? So that means it's the whole thing actually give me what? It's -3 over -1. So, or you can just remember negative divided by negative just give you a positive, okay? So that means you will get greater than 0. Again, on the test, all you have to do is write in this way, okay? That's good enough for me. Alright, so then we look at f of 0. So we plug in 0 here, that will be -1. 0, there's a positive 1. Negative divided by positive, that will be negative, alright? So that's -1 actually is less than 0. And then just go ahead and finish the testing point. So we're going to test another one. And then this is going to give you 1 over 3, which is greater than 0 again. Go back, and then this, because we're looking for greater or equal than, So the solution for us, that will be greater, okay, equal than, so that will be this piece, right, and this piece, correct? I overlap this. All right, so that is our solution, so which I'm going to use this color, the pink color, to write down our solution. Okay, and then once we have this everything, so all you have to do is write down the solution now, right? So we said early, right here, we must exclude this -1. So which means if you want to, you can just write it this way. Exclude it, that means I have to have this a parenthesis, right? And then here we're going to have the bracket. The reason why we have bracket, we have to look, because we're the whole thing, we're looking for greater equal than. That's the reason why we have a bracket. But because x equals -1 is come from the denominator, that's why we must exclude that. So give me a parenthesis. Okay, so I'm going to write my solution. So that will be, remember, this is negative infinity this side, right? This is a positive infinity. So I'm going to write down negative infinity to -1 parenthesis, and we have bracket from 1 to positive infinity. So that is your final solution for this question. Okay, all right, let's move on next one. Example 6 is similar to your homework. So we have 8 over x minus 5 greater or equal than 7 over x minus 4. Okay, let's take a look how we do this. So similar process. Okay, step 1, we want to bring everything to the left side, and then we're going to write it as greater or equal than 0. Okay, that will be 8 over x minus 5 minus 7 over x minus 4 greater or equal than 0. Okay, because we want to write the left side as a single quotient, we have to find the least common denominator. In this case, the least common denominator is just going to be x minus 5 multiply x minus 4. Okay, so all I have to do is we're just going to multiply x minus 4 over x minus 4, and then we're going to be subtract 7 over x minus 4, and then this side we're going to multiply x minus 5 over x minus 5. Let me change it a little bit. Okay, so then we can write it greater or equal than 0. So once we have this, we can put a parenthesis. Okay, then that way we have less chance to make mistake. So I can write this, we have a common denominator, x minus 4 multiply x minus 5. So the numerator, that will become, okay, let's do a distribution right here. That will be 8x minus 32. Okay, this is subtract. Be careful, okay, we have -7. -7 multiply x, that will be subtract 7x. Then have a -7 multiply -5, that will be plus 35. Again, if you don't want to do this, you can always do step by step. Okay, greater or equal than 0. Once we have this, that will be x, because 8x minus 7x is x. 35 minus 32 is 3 over x minus 4, x minus 5, and this whole thing greater or equal than 0. So that is our step 1, right? So we finished step 1. Then step 2, we said we're going to set this equal to 0. All right, the numerator equal to 0, give you -3. Then we also set the denominator to 0. And then we find x equals 4. We also find x equals 5. So again, recall, okay? Again, those, since they produced from the denominator, we know we must exclude them, right? Basically what we're saying is, whatever the solution we get, this we only can use, we must use the parenthesis, right? We must use the parenthesis, either this side or that side of parenthesis. We can't use a bracket. Okay, so step 3, so we're going to write this on the number line. We have negative 3, we have 4, and we have 5. Okay, and then now we're going to have to do is we're just going to test the points. Let's go ahead and put a couple points here. So let's test negative 4, going to test 0, and then here 4.5, and then here maybe I'll test 6. Okay, so let's test those points really quickly since we've done this a couple times now. Because we're looking for, again, the solution's looking for greater equal, so we're looking here is greater, so we're going to say this portion is my solution and this portion is my solution. Okay, so then I'm going to color this to pink is my solution, and this side as pink as my solution. Okay, so because it's greater equal, then I have negative 3 as a boundary point, we must use a bracket. Because the 4 is the boundary points come from the denominator, so that's why we must use the parenthesis. Okay, and then here 5, this also come from the denominator, we're going to use the parenthesis again. So now we're going to write the solution. Okay, maybe I'll just write it. This is step 4, by the way. And then step 5, I'm just going to write solution here. Okay, so that will be from negative 3 to 4, and then we also have from 5 to the positive infinity. That is your final solution. Do some homework and then practice. If you have questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.